Okay, welcome back to the continued series of Civilization Beyond Earth 101 for beginners, for people that are beginning to the Civilization series and specifically to Beyond Earth. Let's continue on with our game here. Just a quick recap of where we are. We are playing as Kozlov of the Slavic Empire. We've landed our spaceship. We created our first city of Krabrust. And we currently have a siege worm that's by Krabrust trying to bring down the city, as well as our worker unit, which we have nearby. But as you can see, he's down to a pretty low amount of health. You can tell by that little red dot right there. It's actually a bar, but it's down to just a dot. So good chance we'll be able to take care of him after all. We do have a few explorer units, one way down here to the south of our capital. He's just exploring this area down here to try to reveal some of this area that we have yet to reveal just yet, as well as to look for any places that he can do an expedition site at. As well as this explorer over here, who is to the west of Krabrust. And he just recently found this resource pod, which he's going to hope to get to and maybe reveal some extra bonuses for our civilization. Where do we need to go from here? We're going to need to probably establish our second city here pretty soon. So hopefully we'll get to that this particular video. If not, we should be getting to it soon. So without further ado, let's go ahead and continue on to the next turn here. And I noticed as the turn occurred that siege worm, he moved up out of the range of where we can fire at him. So unfortunately, he might get some of his health back by doing that. If he returns, though, we'll probably be able to go after him again. So we've got this explorer unit over here, and again, we just revealed this resource pod, so we want to make it over to there. Resource pods are good. They are basically things that our sponsor sent beforehand, but they usually provide us with extra bonuses or extra things to help our civilization grow. Our worker here, he already developed a plantation on this fiber, which has given us one extra production unit. An extra production unit helps us to build our buildings and units quicker in the city. And we're going to send him over to this other fiber unit, where he's going to continue building the plantation over there, which will give us another unit of production. So we're going to go ahead and continue on that. And again, this explorer, he's just kind of trying to reveal some of this area down here, looking for any kind of expedition sites, trying to see if there's any aliens or what other kind of things we're going to need to be mindful of that could be around our city. We're currently in our city building the Old Earth Relic, and we have 2 more turns to go before that's complete. What the Old Earth Relic will do will give us some extra culture. Culture is good for us. You can tell up here we actually have 6 units of culture, and that once we get to the 42 level, we'll be able to make our next virtue pick. Looking at the virtues again, these are things that provide us extra bonuses and extra things to help grow our civilization. And let's just take a quick moment to look at this again. You have basically 4 categories here: might, prosperity, knowledge, and industry. And as you rest your mouse on those, they'll tell you exactly what they're good for. Might is good for martial strength, military. It's good for civs that want to go for the domination kind of win, like to attack the other civilizations and take over their cities and capitals, whatnot. Prosperity focuses on growth and expansion, which is a pretty important component, especially at the beginning of the game. Because again, the big thing with civilization is you want to try to grow your cities to the maximum amount possible. And as you grow more and more cities, your civilization expands further and further. So this particular green tree is good for that kind of a thing. Knowledge is good for scientific and cultural pursuits. Very good for creating science and beakers for our technologies. As we decide on our different technologies, just to go back here a step, we're currently working on the physics technology. And you can see it's going to take us 11 turns to complete that. The more science we have, which over here you can tell we're generating 7 science per turn, the less amount of time it will take to complete these technologies. And the way we can increase this science level is again by looking at that particular knowledge tree, knowledge part of the virtue tree, I should say. So this blue area is going to generate us extra science, which will help us to get those technologies complete in a shorter amount of time. And finally, we have the industry category, the purple area here, which focuses on the productivity and economy. Productivity is good for the things that we are building in our city. As you can see here, there's a number of units and buildings we can choose from, and the number of turns that takes. The more production we have, the less amount of turns it will take to build these individual things. As far as the economy goes, our energy level, which is the economy for this game, we're currently getting 16 energy per turn. We currently have 503. And one of the main big things energy is good for is you can buy units and buildings within your cities. And just this particular tab here tells you how much it would cost to build any of these particular items. And when you purchase any of these with your energy, it only takes 1 turn. The unit or the building will show up on the very next turn. So that's why energy is good. So again, at this point we're working on this old earth relic. That old earth relic will provide us 2 extra culture per turn. That extra culture will help us to get to choose our next choice in the virtue trees. And once we can pick something out of here, it'll provide a bonus to our civilization and to help make it grow. And any of these choices is not necessarily the right choice or the wrong choice. Again, it all depends on your personal decision, as well as the way your game is playing. At this point in time, I'm kind of gearing towards this free colonist unit, simply because, like I said before, we do need to start working on our second city, and the colonist unit, that happens to be the unit we need to build to create that second city. And one thing to note, a side note I guess, is if you do decide to build a colonist within a city, one of the disadvantages to doing that is it stops any population growth that's happening in your city. So if I was to choose this colonist, which would take 14 turns, the city would not be growing during those 14 turns. And as you can see here for Cabras, we currently have a population level of 5, and in 7 turns that's going to bop up to 6, which will enable us to get more production and better bonuses for our city as the population grows. But had I chosen that to build that colonist unit, this 7 turns to the next population growth would not occur. We would actually have to wait until that colonist was done, and then when we pick something else to build, then it would start up again. So it's just important to realize that if you do decide to build a colonist within your city, that is going to stop your population growth during the time that you're building that. That's kind of one of the reasons I'm kind of waiting for the virtue tree to get that free colonist unit. That way there won't be any stoppage in our population growth. But again, you got to kind of look at the way your game is going to see if that is the pertinent choice or not. For me, I think since we don't have any immediate need for military, we seem to be on friendly relations with our nearby aliens. Our closest opponent, we still have yet to even see them, other than where they landed. Because of that, I don't feel the need to rush that colonist out. So I'm okay to patiently wait until we get a choice on the virtue tree again to get the colonist out then. Okay, let's go ahead and get to our next turn here. You notice our explorer did end his turn in some miasma, so you probably just saw there quickly that it said -10 health, and you can see his bar has decreased a little bit from the max that it was on. But that's not too awful bad. Like I said, we just lost a little bit, and at least we'll be able to get to this resource pod without any problem. Okay, looks like we found a portable reactor and fuel source. It's providing us 70 energy. So, up here in our energy level, we're now up to 589. Remember, energy will allow us to build things within our city. And just like we were talking before about the colonist, we could have chosen to build him in 14 turns and stop our population growth. Or in my case, I'm kind of gearing towards getting to the virtue tree to possibly get a colonist then. But another way we could have done a colonist also is to purchase one. And unfortunately, it requires 640 units of energy. We're at 589 right now, so if we did want to go that route, we'd have to wait a few more turns until we got 640 units of energy before we could purchase that. Okay, so he went ahead and got that resource pod. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to run the fortify until healed command. What that allows me to do is allows him to get back up to first full health before he starts moving again. And I'm going to go ahead and select that for now. Especially good if you notice the health of a particular unit gets down into the yellow or the red area. That means that your unit is close to dying, so you'll definitely want to heal while fortifying them to help them get that health back. Think of it like they're just resting for a little while and replenishing their energy, if you want to think about it that way. So this particular explorer, he's just still kind of exploring around here. And it looks like that turn is now complete. Looks like we should complete the old Earth relic on the very next turn, which will give us more culture per turn. Okay, looks like we've got a quest that's updated. Looks like a new quest. And looks like this one in particular is asking us to research computing. So we have 9 more turns to complete physics. So when we look to see what we're going to go ahead and research next, computing might weigh a little bit higher since we now have a quest that is looking for it. Now remember, quests are good. They provide extra bonuses. So it's good to do them as much as you possibly can. Okay, that explorer didn't really find anything that turn. And our other explorer is still resting up and replenishing his energy. However, it does look like our old Earth relic is complete. It's now asking us to choose the next thing we want to build in our city. So let's go ahead and look at our choices again. We already talked about the colonists. Trade convoy, we already have one going. They're currently trading with the Church of Dawn's Light to get even more culture. We could build another worker. We've already got one around our city that's improving the land around it. Explorer, we've already got 2 out there, so I feel okay with that. We have yet to build any military units, so we might want to consider the soldier as our first military unit. The miasmic repulsor clears miasma from affected tiles starting from the center. That is an orbital unit. Again, what orbital units are they are units that actually get shot up into the sky. And as you can see, there's one here. I believe this is our solar collector. And it provides bonuses to the tiles that the satellite beams down upon. So with a miasmic repulsor, what you could do is beam that down to a certain area, and it will repel that poisonous gas that has a tendency to hurt your units. So that's an option also for us. Let's see what other options we have. We have the clinic, which will provide 1 health and 1 science. Science is good for our technologies. Health is good as far as providing extra bonuses for our civ. Laboratory is good strictly in science. The recycler will help us to build our units and buildings within the city quicker by providing 2 extra production. The ultrasonic fence is a very good thing to have if you're having problems with aliens, as far as them being aggressive and killing some of your units off. This ultrasonic fence will basically keep them out of your city's territory. And as you can see by the description here, any unit within 2 tiles of the city, it'll prevent aliens from coming within 2 tiles of your city. But since we're not having any issues with the aliens at the moment, I don't feel highly on that at the moment. But if we did, I would definitely consider this. And the vivarium gives us 1 extra food from desert, which I don't think we really have any desert tiles within our city area. I don't see any. Desert kind of looks like this kind of an area here, kind of a beige with no growth whatsoever in it. So that wouldn't really be a good option for us for this particular city. So out of this, I think what I'm going to do is, we do have the ability to build 2 trade routes in the city, but we've only built 1 convoy. So I'm going to suggest we go ahead and do a secondary convoy. Again, trading is good to provide extra bonuses for your city, such as production, energy, science, and whatnot. So that is going to take us 6 turns, and then we'll have another trade convoy available to us. And let's go on to our next turn. Okay, back down to our explorer who's south of our capital. Again, here I'm just trying to move him around into the unexplored area, trying to avoid this miasma to try to keep him as healthy as much as possible. And lo and behold, it looks like he found a resource pod. Unfortunately, there is an alien wolf beetle parked right on top of it. But we'll see if we can work around that. So far, they haven't been aggressive to us, so we'll hope that continues. And it looks like that's the only activity we have for this turn. We have 5 more turns before our trade convoy is built. And our worker over here is probably pretty close to being done with completing a plantation. Looks like that'll happen on our very next turn. So, let's go on to our next turn. And sure enough, he did indeed complete the plantation. So that's going to give us 1 extra production. So we need to figure out which hex we want to send him to next. I think what we'll do is move him over towards this hex here and maybe build a farm just like we did on this hex here also. Farms provide extra food, which helps our population to increase quicker. This was the explorer that we were resting. Looks like he's back up to full health. So for him, at this point, we're just going to see if he can explore this unexplored area over here. See if there's anything interesting in that area to look at. And it looks like the alien wolf beetle did indeed move off of the resource pod, so we should be able to go ahead and grab that now for ourselves. And we found a collection of goods and luxuries from old Earth that our people never thought they would see again. So it looks like we got 25 culture. And that's a good thing because we now have the chance to develop our next virtue. And like I said before, this was good because I was kind of gearing towards this free colonist unit. But some of the other things that we could use this virtue on is we could get plus 50% XP from combat. And what that means is when your military units get in fights with other units, as they progress, they get what's known as experience points. And as they get more experience points, they get to develop themselves even further, make themselves stronger, or maybe heal up quickly, kind of thing. The other options we would have here is gain a free worker unit. We've already got a worker out there who's done quite a bit on our first city so far, so I think for me the colonist would be the better choice at this point. But the other options we had are to earn 30 science from finishing expeditions. There's the social mores virtue, which each city tile generates 0.25 culture for every population. Again, more science is good to develop technologies quicker. And the other thing was we could have got plus 10% production towards the buildings we build in our cities. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the free colonist unit simply because we need to get going on our second city as quickly as possible here. I do want to give you another quick note on the virtues that I didn't mention before, and that is you have what's called synergy bonuses. You have synergy bonuses for both the vertical parts of the trees as well as the horizontal parts of the trees. So in this case, we've already done 3 particular virtues under the prosperity tree. And you can see over in this section there's 3 green bars lit up. And if you rest your mouse just above that, it tells you plus 10% growth in every city. So what that means is if I choose 2 more of these green virtues, I should get this synergy bonus, an extra bonus, which would give us more growth in our cities. Likewise, if we look horizontally, I've chosen 1, 2, 3, 4 things already. And you can see there's 4 bars over here. And if we rest our mouse on that particular synergy bonus, it tells us that once we fulfill that, we get to choose 1 free virtue. Now this actually requires 6 bars, so I would need 2 more virtues within this first horizontal line to be able to get that extra bonus. So just something to think about as you're choosing your virtues as the game goes on. And when we come back, this actually represents our colonist unit, the one that we just got from our virtue. And we're going to use him to build a second city shortly. Looks like we got a new update in the quest log. Okay, one of the quests we had was the Found an Outpost quest, and we just finished building 1 colonist unit. So our next assignment for that particular quest is to go ahead and found an outpost. I know I keep saying we're going to use a colonist to build our second city. What you actually do with that colonist is you find an area where you want to build, and you have to build an outpost first. And after a number of turns, that outpost will turn into a full-fledged city. And you should see that shortly. Okay, this tells us about the resource pod we found and the culture that we got from it. And it looks like we also discovered an alien nest. And again, an alien nest is where the aliens spawn from. They don't like it when humans come too close to those nests. So especially here at the beginning of the game, we're going to do everything we can to avoid coming close to those nests. Simply because we want to keep the aliens on our good side at this point in time. Okay, so we got our colonist unit. And now we have a big decision on where do we want to plan to have our next city. And if you saw the first part of this series, you know that I was kind of looking around at the different resources that are surrounding us. And that we noticed that up here north of us, we have tons of different resources. We have some ferraxite, we have some fungus, we have some fruit, more fungus, we have some xenomass, we have some copper, more ferraxite. We even have some algae up here. So, as compared to, let's say, looking at the west of us, well, all we have out here is some resin. So because of that, this is kind of an appealing place to put our secondary city, simply because we want to take advantage of those resources that are out there. You'll notice there's these little icons. These icons are basically the game's recommendation on where you might want to build your second city. And those are pretty good spots, simply because they're all within arm's reach of those resources, number one. And number two, they're along a river, which cities along a river are good. They tend to grow quicker. And realize these two spots look like they're on the coast. And coastal cities are good because if you need to travel across the ocean, you're going to need to build naval units, and the only place to build a naval unit would be in a coastal city, as opposed to like Krabrost, which has no access to the sea. You could not build a naval unit in Krabrost. So because that area looks so appealing up here, and we're getting recommendations up there also, I'm going to go ahead and send the colonist up that way. So again, you want to try to avoid the miasma as you're sending him that way, simply because he does have some health, and if he ends this turn in miasma, then that's going to hurt his health a little bit. Alright, let's go on to the next turn. Okay, our Explorer unit is still looking to explore this area over here that we have yet to see. Looks like I might have to send him into some miasma. Not really much we can do to avoid that if we want to see what's down behind here. And unfortunately, I bounded right upon an alien nest, which again, aliens are very protective about their nests. They're probably not going to like the fact that I ended up right next to them. So on the next turn, I'm going to want to move him away from there as quickly as possible, I think. Okay, we've moved our worker over to this hex, and again, we decided we were going to build a farm there. Again, you have different options. Looks like you can build generators for some extra energy. You can construct roads. Farming is an option, which is the one that I'm going to choose simply to grow our city even quicker. Okay, our colonist is going to move up here towards the coastal areas. And for him, we're just going to go ahead and explore some of this area further, getting him away from that nest. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and pause, and we'll continue in the next segment shortly.